Some of the biggest issues in a design system happen silently, so you might actually think your design system is fine, but it probably is not. The growth is under the radar, and most times some of the worst things happen when it's too late for you to actually remedy it. Today we're going to be talking about 3 of the silent killers inside your design system that you might not be aware of and is slowly crumbling your entire design system. Let's start with the first one. This is the silent killer. It's the naming inconsistency. Now, there's a disconnect between your naming standards, how you name your variables, how you name your tokens, and how the entire organizations in one approach naming convention. Is it either the color.primary or color.brand.primary or button/primary enabled, or is it even btn-1-default? Which is it? Does your team know this? And how is everyone approaching and naming all of their various different design inputs? Now, when names aren't predictable, designers will stop trusting the systems, engineers will stop using the system, and it will lead to a lot of disconnect between the design and the engineering team. And once this disconnect happens and there's no more trust, it will lead to a lot of duplications, a lot of token inconsistencies, lots of confusing variants, also misaligned development handoff. You might be wondering, these are all problems, but Destiny, how do I fix it? Well, if you want to fix this, one of the first things you need to do is to use a consistent naming system. Something like BEM or functional trees, or even token naming v2, if that's what you like to do. Now you need to study each of these other naming conventions, bring it up to your team, discuss and pick ones that fits your specific needs. You need to remember, design system is very customizable and it's meant to suit what your team does. So what might be working for team or company A might not be what will work for team or company B. You need to look into your system, look into your team, look into how you want this to be structured, and then decide and pick one. Once you pick any of this, just stick with it and make sure someone and everyone is aware of what you guys are doing, and then you have a smooth sailing or easier transition into building a healthier design system. Second killer is when your design components are unscalable and they have lots of overrides. Have you ever opened a component and you find that everything is overridden? Like, that can be really frustrating, and this is a serious red flag. Don't get me wrong, overrides are fine, but when they're required every time, people just detach the component and don't use it at all. And detaching lots of this component leads to inconsistencies, leads to a lot of design drift, and also leads to lots of the dev reviewing everything again from scratch. Because a lot of things have changed and they do not trust the system anymore. You want to avoid this. Instead of going this way, I want you to build better components. I want you to use built-in variants, logical default states, and even fewer external styles override. This will make sure that your design system is consistent, is cohesive, and is easier to maintain in the future. Because trust me, if your design system is so complex and has to do with a lot of hard-coded and difficult overrides, people are going to get frustrated. And just imagine onboarding a new designer and the person has no idea where to start from, or a new engineer, which is one of the worst cases, and now this engineer has to start from the scratch, building everything, reviewing every PR all over and over again. This will lead to slow design outcomes, slower times to production, and just generally destroy the entire morale of the team. Now, the third silent killer is something that you might think might not be important or necessary, but trust me, over time, these things add up and it eventually destroys your entire design system. And this has to do with on-track design depth. Well, this one is actually quite tricky because you're wondering, like, this is just a design depth, we are going to fix it later on. But nobody is actually tracking it. Now, the depth won't actually show up in your system, but it will slow it down eventually. And you might be asking, what actually counts as a depth? Well, let's look at it this way. You have some old components still in use, but there are new variants of this component and the older ones have not been updated to the newer versions or with the newer styling. For example, with all of the new updates that comes with Figma, and if you're confused on how to use Figma with all of the new updates, I have a video about that and I'll link that. You can go and watch that on my page if it's not linked up there. I'll walk you through the entire new Figma UI and you see how everything works. And also, if this video is giving you value, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, because that's the only way you tell me that you're getting value from this and other people can reach and get value and build healthy systems. Now back to what I was saying. When you have older components still in use and you want to update them to the newer styles that things have been done, especially like with the Figma update, you might think like this is a design depth and you just use it and leave it as is. But over time, when other people want to update those components, they find out that this has not been done and it eventually slows the entire productions. Now, Tokens that no longer match brand identity, especially when you've done a brand overhaul, is also a design debt. If this is not tracked and documented properly so that it can be done in the future, because it might not have been as important at that time, this also acts as design debt and it will end up slowing your design system eventually. One of the most fundamental ones actually has to do with some of the missing change logs or even documentations. A lot of people don't discuss how important documentation is to a healthy design system, which I feel is a video for another whole day where we're going to dive deeper into documentation. But documentation is one of the, if not the most important part of your design system, because if no one knows how to use your design system or where to find components or how each component works, some of the do's and don't usage, people will just end up using the system how they deem fit, which might not be the best for your brand or your strategy. Now, all of this, they slow people down, or worse, they force them to guess. And when people start guessing in your design system, you have a lot of component detachment and you have slower times to production. But how do you fix most of this? Well, it's actually quite easier than you think. One of the first things you want to start doing is running regular audits on your component. Now, Figma has a good analytics feature that helps you track your component usage and detachment rates, and also where each components are being used. You can start off with that to audit most of your components to understand what is going on and track some of the debt that you might have. Which leads us to the second thing, which is tracking your component usage. How often is a component being used? Which teams are using it? Which designers are using it? And how often is it being detached? You want to track all of this. You want to clearly mark out deprecated assets by either changing the name or even the thumbnail so that it's clearly known that this asset is deprecated and no one is using them again. Just for a little recap, I've mentioned 3 different things that might be ending up destroying your design system that you even had no idea about: the naming, your overrides policy, and also tracking your design debt effectively. These 3 things will slowly but quietly destroy and kill your entire design system if they're not handled properly and with experience and proper management. Once the trust in your design system is gone, it's a little bit difficult to start building that trust once again, because your system is not just a Figma file, it's a living and breathing entity that will change from time to time, especially with people leaving and coming into your organization. Now, here's one of the big twists. None of this actually matters if the foundation of your design system is wrong. And in my next video, I'm going to break down either tokens or variable, which will be the best way for you to go on with your design system. And because choosing one wrong will clearly damage the way your design systems can proceed and scale over the next future time. If you'd like to know which of them for you to use in your design systems, watch this video right over here, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and I'll meet you there and help you decide and tell you when to use either tokens or variables or even both of them in your design system.